The little green light on the landline is blinking like a malevolent firefly. Missed call. Missed call. Probably the oxygen company again, wondering if Nana's decided to spontaneously photosynthesize. I jabbed the speakerphone button while simultaneously peering through the kitchen blinds. "Mr. Thompson?" a tinny voice asks. It's Brenda from Medox Supplies. Her voice always sounds one minor inconvenience away from a full-blown existential crisis. "Still me, Brenda. Any update on that ETA?" I watch as a familiar, lumbering white truck, the Medox logo emblazoned on its side like a beacon of hope, finally trundles around the corner of Primrose Lane. "Actually, hold that thought, Brenda. I think our chariot has arrived." Relief floods through me, so potent it almost makes my knees buckle. Nana's been having another one of her bad episodes, her breath catching like a rusty hinge. The doctor's words from this morning echo in my ears. "She needs the higher flow, Michael, now!" I dash to the living room. Nana's propped up in her recliner, a faded Afghan over her knees, her gaze fixed on the window. Even from here, I can hear the faint wheeze. "They're here, Nana!" I call out, trying to keep the tremor from my voice. "Hang tight!" Her reply is weak, but her trademark feistiness is still there. "Took 'em long enough? My begonias are judging me, Michael. They expect a certain level of respiratory competence in their caregivers." I manage a weak smile and head for the front door, ready to greet our savior, Chad the delivery driver, a fresh-faced kid who always looks mildly terrified of Nana's directness. But as I swing the door open, the scene unfolding on my driveway isn't one of efficient medical delivery. It's a suburban standoff. Karen Klumpf, president of the Whispering Pines Homeowners Association, scourge of improperly sorted recycling bins, and self-appointed guardian of all things beige, is standing ramrod straight in front of the Medox truck. Her arms are crossed, her lips a thin line of righteous fury. She's wielding her ever-present clipboard like a scepter, or perhaps a particularly judgmental shield. Chad, poor Chad, is trying to reason with her, his expression a mixture of bewilderment and dawning horror. "Absolutely not," Karen declares, her voice carrying across the meticulously manicured lawn with the sharp authority of a drill sergeant. "This vehicle clearly exceeds the HOA's mandated gross vehicle weight for residential street parking between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. on alternating Tuesdays. It's in the bylaws, Section 7, Subsection C, Paragraph 2, for your edification." Alternating Tuesdays? She's making this up. She has to be. My internal monologue is already sputtering. "Lady, my Nana is currently attempting to breathe air the consistency of old soup, and you're worried about phantom truck tonnage?" "Ma'am," Chad says, his voice cracking slightly, "this is a medical oxygen delivery. It's an emergency." Karen gives a dismissive sniff. "The only emergency I see, young man, is the flagrant disregard for community standards. And Michael," she says, turning her steely gaze on me as I hurry down the driveway, "you know the rules. Your grandmother's situation doesn't grant you a free pass on aesthetic cohesion." Aesthetic cohesion? Is that what we're calling it now? "Karen," I begin, trying to keep my voice even, the kind of calm, reasonable tone one uses with a cornered badger. "This is Nana's oxygen. She needs it, right now." "And I," Karen retorts, tapping her clipboard with a perfectly manicured nail, "need this behemoth removed from our pristine asphalt before it causes irreparable damage to the delicate sensibilities of our neighborhood. We all have our crosses to bear, Michael." Chad, bless his cotton socks, tries again. He pulls out a sheaf of paperwork, the official Medox emergency delivery authorization. "See, ma'am, doctor's orders, critical patient." Karen barely glances at it. "And did your doctor submit an environmental impact form for the diesel fumes this..." This leviathan is spewing into our oxygen-compromised air? She actually says oxygen-compromised air with a straight face. The irony is so thick I could spread it on toast. Furthermore, she continues, warming to her theme, the logo on this truck is not an approved vendor color palette, as per Addendum 4.3 of the revised HOA guidelines. It's far too assertive. Assertive? It's blue and white? What did she want? Pastel camouflage? Karen, for the love of God, I say, my voice rising despite my best efforts. She can't breathe. It's oxygen, the stuff that keeps people, alive. And I can't breathe, she parrots, placing a theatrical hand on her chest, with this continuous assault on our community's carefully curated tranquility. The vibrations alone are probably unsettling the foundations of my prize-winning garden gnomes. Chad's phone buzzes. He looks at it, his face paling. My dispatcher, man. He says I can only wait another 15 minutes. I've got other critical deliveries. I'm so sorry. 15 minutes. My blood runs cold. I glance back at the house, at Nana's window. I can almost feel her struggling for each breath. This isn't some abstract HOA squabble anymore. This is life and death, being debated by a woman whose primary concern seems to be the emotional well-being of ceramic figurines. I remember last year, a less severe episode, but terrifying nonetheless. Nana, gasping slightly, had grabbed my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. Don't you worry, Michael, she'd rasped, a mischievous glint in her eye. If I kick the bucket, make sure Karen Klumpf doesn't get her hands on my good china. She's always coveted that gravy boat. Even then, even scared, she was Nana. And I'd be damned if I let clipboard calamity be the reason that glint faded. For good. My patience, already thinner than Karen's list of approved driveway sealants, snaps. Okay, Karen, I say, my voice dangerously quiet. New plan. You move, or I move you. She actually puffs up. Are you threatening me, Michael? That's a direct violation of Community Conduct Code, Section 3, Subsection B, aggressive posturing towards an HOA official. She has them memorized. It's like a superpower, a really, really annoying superpower. It's not a threat, Karen, I say, taking a step forward. It's a public service announcement. Before I can make good on my non-threat, Chad's radio crackles. Unit 7, what's your 20? You're running late for the Henderson pickup. Chad winces. 10 minutes, guys. I've got a situation. This is going nowhere. I'm calling the cops, I announce, already dialing 911. Karen scoffs. Go right ahead. They'll side with the law. And I am the law here. Yes, hello? I say into the phone. I'm at 12 Primrose Lane, Whispering Pines. I have an HOA president, a Karen Klumpf, who is obstructing a critical medical oxygen delivery for my grandmother. Yes, she's having severe breathing difficulties. Yes, it's urgent. The dispatcher sounds sympathetic but tired, like this isn't her first HOA-related emergency of the day. We'll send a unit, sir. Please try to remain calm. Remain calm? Lady, I'm about 3 seconds from using that clipboard as a frisbee. Within minutes, a cruiser pulls up. Outstep Officer Miller, young, earnest, looking like he just graduated from the How to De-Escalate Suburbia handbook, and Officer Kowski, older, sporting a magnificent mustache that seems to have absorbed the wisdom of 1,000 neighborhood disputes. He looks like he's seen it all, twice, and wasn't impressed either time. Karen immediately transforms. The shrill harpy becomes the concerned citizen, the guardian of local decency. Officers, thank heavens you're here, she gushes, clasping her hands together. This man, she points a trembling finger at Chad, who looks like he wants the earth to swallow him whole. And this resident, now the finger is aimed at me, are creating a hostile environment, violating numerous HOA covenants, which, I remind you, are legally binding contracts. Officer Miller pulls out a notepad. Ma'am, we understand, but this appears to be a medical situation. Officer Kowski ambles over to me, his expression unreadable. She always like this? He murmurs, his voice a low rumble. You have absolutely no idea, I whisper back. This is her on a good day. The officers attempt to reason with Karen. Miller tries the direct approach, explaining the urgency of the medical need. Kowski employs a more laconic, world-weary tactic, asking her if she's considered the potential community relations blowback from, a resident dying due to lack of oxygen. Karen is a fortress of self-righteousness. She quotes bylaws with the speed and accuracy of a Gatling gun. She explains that the integrity of the community's infrastructure and the preservation of our agreed-upon aesthetic values take precedence over temporary individual discomforts. Temporary individual discomforts. Is that what we're calling asphyxiation now? Miller looks at Kowski, a silent plea for help in his eyes. Kowski just sighs, the sound carrying the weight of decades of Karens. Sir, Miller says to me, his tone apologetic, our hands are a bit tied here. HOA regulations are technically civil matters. As long as she's on HOA common property, which this street is, and isn't physically assaulting anyone or damaging property beyond, alleged petunia distress, there's not much we can do without a court order. Karen beams, a smug, triumphant little smile playing on her lips. Precisely, officer, which I would never do. I am a pillar of this community. Unlike some people who think they can just order industrial equipment, willy-nilly. Chad glances at his watch again, his face a mask of misery. 5 minutes, man. Then I absolutely have to go. My job's on the line. I'm really sorry. 5 minutes. The words clang in my head like a funeral bell. Nana. I can picture her small hand clutching her chest. Panic, cold and sharp, claws its way up my throat. My eyes dart around wildly, searching for something. Anything. A solution. Divine intervention. A rogue meteorite aimed squarely at a certain clipboard. And then it hits me. A memory, hazy at first, then sharpening into focus with the clarity of desperation. Reno, years ago. My old buddy Leroy Wrench Washington, a prize-winning alpaca named Princess Fluffybutt. A case of mistaken identity involving a very angry blackjack dealer who thought Wrench had insulted his toupee. I'd somehow managed to talk everyone down, extract Wrench and Princess Fluffybutt from the casino's back office, and get them into my beat-up Civic before security, or worse, the alpaca's actual owner, showed up. Wrench had been eternally grateful. He'd clapped me on the shoulder, his eyes shining with a slightly manic light. "Mikey, my man," he'd boomed. "I owe you. Big time. Anything. Ever. You just say the word. Even if it involves airlifting a rhino out of a hostile PTA meeting. Wrench delivers." Airlifting a rhino? It's insane. Utterly, certifiably bonkers. But Nana? My hand, trembling, pulls out my phone. I scroll through contacts, my thumb hovering over Wrench. Do not call unless world ending. Well, it felt pretty damn close to Nana's world ending. I hit dial. "Wrench?" I say, my voice barely a croak. "It's Mike. Mike Thompson. Remember that thing in Reno with the alpaca?" A booming laugh erupts from the other end, so loud I have to pull the phone away from my ear. Mikey. My brother from another mother. How could I forget Princess Fluffybutt and the great toupee debacle of 09? Best Tuesday I ever had. What's shakin', Bacon? You finally decide to go pro with that alpaca wrangling? Not exactly, Wrench. Listen, I need that favor. The big one. How fast can you get something, delivered to a suburban cul-de-sac currently under siege by a 50-something dictator with a clipboard and a pathological devotion to beige. There's a pause, just long enough for me to think this is the stupidest idea I've ever had. Then Wrench chuckles. A tactical insertion into a hostile HOA zone, eh? My specialty. What's the payload, Mikey? And what's the LZ look like? Got any power lines? Ornery poodles I should know about? Hostiles on site requiring gentle discouragement? Oxygen tank wrench. Small one for my grandmother. Front yard's clear mostly, just one very hostile HOA president. And her petunias. They're apparently prize winners. Consider it done, buddy. Wrench's voice is pure, unadulterated confidence. Give me the coordinates. Airmail coming your way. ETA, let's say 4 minutes. Gotta love surplus military hardware for rush deliveries. 4 minutes. He said 4 minutes. I hang up, a wild, disbelieving grin stretching my face. My heart is hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Officer Kowski raises an eyebrow. Everything all right there, son? You look like you've seen a ghost and invited it in for tea. Something like that, officer, I manage, my voice still shaky. Something is on its way. Karen, meanwhile, having successfully repelled the Medox truck, Chad is now slowly, miserably executing a 27-point turn to escape her jurisdiction, is preening. She smooths down her sensible floral blouse, a self-satisfied smirk plastered on her face. She's probably already composing the triumphant email to the rest of the HOA board. Dear fellow guardians of suburban serenity, today I single-handedly— See, officers, she chirps, turning back to Miller and Kowski. A little adherence to protocol and common decency is all it takes. Some people are just so resistant to sensible order. And then we hear it. A faint, rhythmic thumping, whump, whump, whump. It's distant at first, almost imperceptible beneath Karen's monologue about the importance of pre-approved shrubbery heights. But it's growing. Louder now. Whump, whump, whump. Everyone, even Karen, pauses. Heads tilt. Officer Miller frowns. Do you hear that? Sounds like a really big bird? Maybe a flock of geese with an attitude problem? Officer Kowski sniffs the air, his mustache twitching. That ain't no pigeon, Miller, and it ain't geese. The whump, whump, whump intensifies, rattling the windows in their frames. The ground beneath our feet begins to vibrate. Small, ornamental pebbles on Mrs. Henderson's Zen garden start to jitterbug. And then cresting the perfectly aligned rooftops of Primrose Lane comes the source of the noise. It's big, it's green, it has 2 enormous rotors. It is unmistakably a CH-47 Chinook cargo helicopter, and it's heading straight for my front yard. Karen Klump's jaw, which had been set in a line of smug satisfaction, drops. Her meticulously organized clipboard, filled with violation notices and bylaw references, slips from her suddenly nerveless fingers and clatters onto the pristine asphalt she was so desperate to protect. What? She stammers, her voice a mere squeak against the deafening roar of the approaching rotors. What in the Homeowners Association is that? I can't help it. A wild, triumphant grin splits my face. I cup my hands around my mouth and yell over the hurricane-force wind now whipping around us. That, Karen, is my oxygen delivery, special express, courtesy of Wrench's Rapid Respiratory Relief Service. The Chinook, a glorious olive-drab angel of mercy, or perhaps suburban chaos, hovers directly over my front yard. The downdraft is incredible. It flattens Karen's prize-winning petunias instantly, turning them into sad, colorful pulp. Loose HOA violation notices that had fluttered from her clipboard are sucked up into the vortex, dancing around like deranged confetti at a military-themed wedding. My hair is plastered to my forehead. Chad, the delivery driver who had been trying to make his escape, has simply stopped his truck in the middle of the road, his face pressed against the windshield, eyes like saucers. He's definitely live streaming this. I'm probably going to be a meme by dinner. HOA helidrop. A wide ramp at the back of the Chinook begins to lower with a hydraulic hiss. Two figures in full flight suits and helmets emerge, silhouetted against the bright sky. They look like something out of a recruitment poster for a very specialized, very eccentric branch of the armed forces. These are the Pelicans, as Wrench affectionately calls his crew. One of them, shorter and stockier, gives me a crisp thumbs up. The other, taller and leaner, this must be Slick, begins making a series of complex hand signals like a third-base coach melon on a caffeine bender. "Mr. Thompson!" Slick bellows, his voice amplified by his helmet comms but still barely audible over the rotors. "Confirm LZ is secure for payload deployment. We have an operational window of approximately 90 seconds before we start violating FAA suburban daylight, recreational flight ordinances, and trust me, you don't want to fill out that paperwork." I give a frantic, wind-buffeted thumbs up. FAA suburban daylight recreational flight ordinances? Is that even a real thing? With Wrench, anything is possible. With astonishing precision, a small, sturdy pallet bearing Nana's new oxygen tank is winched down from the belly of the beast. It sways gently in the wind, then touches down on my driveway with a soft thud, missing Karen's prize-winning, now dearly departed, rose bushes by inches. It's a thing of beauty, a masterclass in aerial delivery. Karen, who had been momentarily stunned into silence by the sheer, unadulterated audacity of it all, finds her voice, and it is a voice that could curdle milk at 50 paces. "This is unacceptable!" she screeches, her face contorted, her carefully coiffed hair now resembling a bird's nest that's been through a wind tunnel. "Unregulated airspace, property damage, my petunias, my poor, defenseless petunias. I'm calling the FAA, I'm calling the mayor, I'm calling my lawyer Bernice, and she eats helicopter pilots for breakfast." She actually tries to make a run for the hovering Chinook, as if she's going to physically wrestle it out of the sky. Officer Kowski, with a surprising burst of speed for a man of his considerable mustache, intercepts her, grabbing her arm gently but firmly. "Ma'am," he says, his voice remarkably calm in the manufactured hurricane. "For your own safety and for the continued structural integrity of my eardrums, I strongly suggest you remain calm. You're about to complain about a helicopter." To a helicopter. "It won't hear you. It's busy." Slick, meanwhile, has expertly unclipped the oxygen tank from the pallet. He gives me a grin, visible even through his tinted visor. "Pleasure doing business, Mr. Thompson. Always up for a challenging LZ. Wrench says hi, and to tell you the alpaca sends its regards." He helps me start wheeling the life-saving cylinder towards my front door. "Thanks," I shout back over my shoulder. "Send Wrench my, extreme gratitude. And tell him Princess Fluffybutt still owes me a new car seat cover." Slick gives a mock salute, then is efficiently winched back up into the Chinook. The ramp retracts. With a final deafening roar and a courteous, or possibly sarcastic, dip of its nose that sends another blast of air directly at Karen, making her yelp and stagger. The helicopter ascends. It climbs rapidly, banks sharply over Mrs. Henderson's prize-winning, and presumably terrified, poodle, and then disappears over the rooftops as quickly as it arrived. Silence. A deafening, ringing, petunia-scented silence descends upon Primrose Lane. It's broken only by Karen's ragged, hysterical sobs and the distant, retreating whump-whump-whump of Wrench's airborne cavalry. I manage to wrestle the oxygen tank through the front door. Nana is sitting bolt upright in her recliner, her eyes wide. "Michael?" she says, her voice surprisingly strong, the new oxygen already working its magic. "Was that an earthquake, or did you finally decide to mow the lawn with a jet engine? And did I hear someone mention Princess Fluffybutt?" I lean against the closed door, my legs feeling like overcooked spaghetti. My heart is still trying to beat its way out of my chest. A hysterical laugh bubbles up from somewhere deep inside, a mixture of terror, relief, and sheer unadulterated disbelief. I think I might be in shock, or possibly in need of a very, very stiff drink, and a new HOA. Officers Miller and Kowski are approaching my front porch, their expressions a fascinating blend of awe, confusion, and impending paperwork. Miller looks like he's questioning all his life choices that led him to this particular cul-de-sac on this particular Tuesday. Kowski, on the other hand, is actually stroking his mustache, a faint, almost imperceptible smirk playing on his lips. "Sir, Mr. Thompson," Officer Miller begins, his voice a little hoarse. He clears his throat. Are you going to tell us that you regularly receive, aerial medical supplies? Is this a new Amazon Prime delivery option I haven't heard about?" I try to arrange my face into an expression of innocent bewilderment. It's probably not very convincing. "First time, officer. Desperate times, you know. My friend Wrench, he's in logistics. Very efficient logistics, as you can see." Officer Kowski lets out a sound that might be a chuckle, quickly disguised as a cough. Logistics. Right. Like Al Capone was in the used furniture and antique typewriter business. You got a permit for that landing zone, son? Or did your friend in logistics just eyeball it between the bird bath and the gnome with the fishing rod? I spread my hands helplessly. It all happened so fast, officer. 1 minute my Nana can't breathe. The next, well, you saw. A whirlwind of helpfulness. Karen, who has partially recovered her composure, though her hair still looks like it's been styled by a rogue tornado, is now marching towards them, her face a mask of unadulterated fury. She's brandishing a flattened petunia stem like it's Exhibit A in the trial of the century. "Officers, badge numbers. I want your badge numbers, both of you. You stood by and allowed this aerial assault on our peaceful community. You allowed that sky hooligan to destroy private property. My award-winning imperial pink petunias, direct descendants of stock cultivated by Queen Victoria's personal gardener, are now mulch. I will see you both demoted to guarding the lost and found at the bus station." Miller sighs, the sound of a man who knows his afternoon is about to be filled with triplicate forms and irate citizen complaints. Kowski just looks at Karen, then at the pulped petunias, then back at Karen. "Ma'am," Kowski says, his voice calm and steady. "As far as I can tell, a medical emergency was resolved. Efficiently. As for the petunias, perhaps you could file a claim with the FAA. Or maybe your friend Bernice, the lawyer, knows a good flower therapist." Karen sputters, momentarily speechless. This, I suspect, is a rare occurrence. Later that evening, after Nana is stable and comfortably watching a documentary about competitive cheese rolling, her current obsession, the email arrives. The subject line, in ominous all caps, screams, "Urgent, emergency HOA Zoom, meeting, unauthorized aerial activity, bylaw breaches, multiple, severe, and associated landscaping trauma." I groan. Of course. I'm probably going to be excommunicated from Whispering Pines. They'll probably demand I rebuild Karen's petunia bed with my own tears. My phone rings. It's Wrench. "Hey, Mikey. Mission accomplished, my man. Oxygen hit the spot? Nana doing okay?" His voice is still booming, still crackling with that infectious, slightly unhinged energy. "Yeah, Wrench, she's much better. Thanks to you, seriously. I don't know how to repay you." Though I think Karen Clumpf might be sending you a bill for aggravated petunia-cide. Wrench laughs, a sound like a friendly bear gargling gravel. Ah, Karen Clumpf. Small world, ain't it? Slight hiccup there, buddy. Turns out the esteemed Miss Clumpf is also on the advisory board of that little private airfield I occasionally borrow certain specialized delivery vehicles from. My blood turns to ice, then to lukewarm slush, then back to ice. You're kidding me. Wish I was, pal. She's apparently raised a formal complaint about an unauthorized humanitarian mission deploying excessive rotor wash in a designated quiet zone. Got a real flair for the dramatic, that one. Don't you worry your little head about it, though. Wrench'll smooth it over. Might need you to, testify about the precise sequence of events during the Great Toupee debacle in Reno. You know, just to refresh her memory on my creative problem-solving skills and my network of very understanding associates. I drop my head into my hands. Of course. Of course Karen Clumpf is connected to Wrench's slightly less than legal-sounding airfield. The universe isn't just laughing at me, it's got me in a headlock and is giving me a cosmic noogie. A week passes. Nana is back to her usual feisty self, already complaining about the quality of daytime television and the fact that I haven't yet mastered the art of a perfect creme brulee. The HOA sends me a very stiffly worded letter, fining me $250 for unapproved landscaping modifications, Class B, floral destruction, and an additional $100 for exceeding decibel limits for daytime residential deliveries via unconventional aerial transport. I frame the letter. It's going right next to my college diploma. Proof that I can handle anything life, or the Whispering Pines HOA throws at me. The kids in the neighborhood have started calling me Captain Helicopter. They salute when I walk by. It's slightly unnerving, but also kind of cool. Karen Clumpf, now universally known as Rotor Rage Karen, a nickname I may or may not have subtly encouraged, has become even more tyrannical, if that's possible. She's trying to pass a new bylaw mandating underground bunkers for all residents in case of future unsanctioned airspace incursions. Her petunias, I note with some satisfaction, have not recovered. Today, the new, much smaller and decidedly less intimidating Medox truck pulls up. It's driven by a young man who looks even more terrified than Chad did. He keeps glancing nervously at the sky. Karen is, naturally, watching from her window, her curtains twitching like an agitated squirrel's tail. The new driver, whose name tag reads Nervous Neville, practically throws the small oxygen canister at me, and then hands me a small, unassuming brown paper package. Mr. Thompson?" Neville whispers, his eyes darting around. "Someone called, Wrench Logistics and Extreme Delivery Solutions. Also asked me to give this to you. He said it was post-mission swag." I take the package. Neville practically sprints back to his truck and peels out of the cul-de-sac like he's fleeing a zombie apocalypse. Inside the package, nestled on a bed of bright orange packing peanuts, is a tiny, perfectly detailed die-cast model of a CH-47 Chinook helicopter. I can't help it. I start to laugh. A real, honest-to-goodness belly laugh, the kind that makes your eyes water. I look up at Karen's window, where her silhouette is still visible, a furious, curtain-twitching shadow. I hold up the little helicopter and give a slow, deliberate wink. I can almost hear Wrench's booming laugh echoing on the suburban breeze. Yeah, I think, turning to go inside, the little metal helicopter cool in my palm. Life in Whispering Pines was definitely looking up. Or, at the very least, it was looking a whole lot more airborne. And Nana? Nana was already asking if Wrench did birthday party flyovers. I told her I'd ask.